Imagine waking up to the shocking news that Jake Paul, the so-called boxing prodigy, has been arrested, not just for one thing, but for years of shady schemes, scams, and outright fraud. This story is wilder than you can imagine, as the walls of deceit surrounding Paul's career are finally crumbling. His rise to fame wasn't built on talent or hard work. Instead, it's a house of cards stacked with manipulation and exploitation. Jake Paul's journey began during his Vine days, where he morphed from an annoying prankster into a toxic figure. His history is marred by stories of cyberbullying, blackmail, and even police reports linking him to cases of harassment. Fast forward to his Team 10 era on YouTube, where things only worsened. Team 10 was not the fun-loving collective it was portrayed to be. It operated more like a cult. Members reported being spied on, manipulated, and controlled, with phones tapped and lives monitored. The entire operation was shrouded in deceit, and fans were tricked into buying horrible merchandise. But that wasn't all. Paul turned entire neighborhoods into war zones. Neighbors called the cops 47 times due to his outrageous stunts, which included explosions and even arson. One of these reckless antics left a young girl injured. But instead of taking responsibility, Jake simply threw some hush money at the situation and moved on. This pattern of behavior continued, revealing a troubling trend. Even his social media success was artificially inflated, with reports indicating that up to 40% of his views were generated by bots. Paul wasn't just conning fans, he was duping advertisers as well. When the pandemic hit, Jake seized the opportunity to exploit vulnerable young people through the financial freedom movement. He promised kids they could become millionaires for a small fee. But what they received were repackaged internet guides filled with stolen tips from real business coaches. In just 3 months, he pocketed $2 million, demonstrating that if scamming were a sport, he would undoubtedly win a championship belt. Then came the infamous crypto scams. Paul's involvement with junk tokens and pump-and-dump schemes became notorious. One example was the Dink token, which he secretly owned 100% of. He hyped it up and then dumped it, pocketing a cool $10 million while leaving his fans broke. His NFT cash grab added another $4 million to his coffers, but left countless fans feeling betrayed. As if that wasn't enough, Jake began using boxing as his personal casino. His underground matches in Los Angeles were less about competition and more about money laundering, with bets soaring to $1 million per match. Some fighters left the ring so injured they could barely walk, and one even disappeared, adding a sinister edge to Paul's so-called boxing legacy. This was no ordinary sport. It was a criminal enterprise waiting to be exposed. When Jake transitioned to official boxing, the scams continued. Rumors swirled about his fight against Reece and Gibb, suggesting Gibb was paid to take a dive in the first round. The fight with Ben Askren was marred by allegations of $30 million in fake bets. Askren went down from a punch so weak it could barely knock over a toddler, leading to whispers of bribery. Yet, Jake continued to strut around with an inflated sense of confidence, reflecting his offshore bank accounts rather than any real talent. The fight with Mike Tyson took things to another level. A leaked script revealed that the bout was choreographed to make Jake look good. Fans tuning in for a historic clash instead witnessed a farce, which sparked multiple lawsuits against Netflix, the event streaming platform, after viewers complained about buffering issues and low-quality production. Behind the scenes, the FBI was gathering evidence of a sprawling criminal organization. Investigations uncovered hard drives filled with proof of money laundering, offshore schemes, doping scandals, and even cartel connections. This was no mere influencer drama. It was a full-blown criminal enterprise that had betrayed countless fans, many of whom lost their life savings to his scams. Jake Paul's fraudulent activities are estimated to have cost fans over $200 million. Now, as the FBI closes in and arrests are made, justice is finally catching up to the so-called problem child. Ironically, despite the overwhelming evidence against him, some still label Jake a boxing prodigy. A prodigy of what? Fraud and manipulation. Jake Paul isn't a hero. He's a con artist who crafted a false narrative around his so-called talent while exploiting fans and gaming the system. His arrest is not merely justice. It's karma for years of unchecked arrogance and deceit. As the story unfolds, it's clear that Paul is facing the consequences of his actions. And this time, there's no clever scheme to evade accountability. This isn't just a tale of a man falling from grace. It's a cautionary story about the dangers of greed and deception. With the truth finally shining a light on every dark corner of his empire, the world is beginning to see Jake for who he truly is, a man who prioritized wealth over integrity. The problem child may be facing justice, but the scars of his actions will linger long after the dust settles.